Okay, good morning or afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry I'm not here with you today, but I know you'll do a great job with Miss Preston, just like you did last week while I was out. Today, you guys are going to be learning about some new philosophies that emerged during the Industrial Revolution. You're going to be reading about some philosophers, doing a graphic organizer, taking some notes, and then you're going to create a mini art project about different economic systems. So that's where we're headed today. So you guys will watch this video. You'll take notes as you normally do. Um, Feel free to have someone pause the video as needed to make sure you get all the notes you need. This shouldn't take very long. And if you miss any of it, this slide presentation is posted on Edmodo, so you can go back and get it later. So the title of your notes for today is Industrial Revolution Philosophy. And the essential question is, how did the Industrial Revolution change thinking in Europe and around the world? So you don't need to write this. This is what we already know. So in the first part of the Industrial Revolution, we know that Britain was the main country because of coal, because they had those natural resources. We know that cottage industries transitioned to factories. We know that people switched from mostly being farmers to mostly doing factory work. And we know that people moved from rural areas to urban areas. We also know that the Industrial Revolution caused some problems, including poor working conditions, child labor, crowded, dirty tenements, and pollution. Benefits of the Industrial Revolution, though, led to new inventions, things like cars, railroads, new medications, faster ways of doing things, so that there were more products that could be gotten more cheaply. All right, so write the green stuff. So in the second part of the Industrial Revolution, America and Germany start to overtake Britain as the major industrial powers. They have more people, more land, and more resources, and so that's why. They're larger nations. Britain's like a little tiny island. Um, because of a lot of the new inventions, we see improvements to cities. So this is Chicago during the Industrial Revolution. You see streetcars, so new ways of transportation. You start to see these really tall buildings that are possible because of the invention of a better quality of steel. However, these improvements, for the most part, didn't reach the poorest people. They're still living in those terrible tenements. They're still working really hard. So these improvements don't apply to those people. So we know that for much of European history, there were two basic social classes. You had the tiny little group of nobles at the top who were in charge of everything and had most of the wealth. Then you had the peasants at the bottom, which was basically everybody else, all the poor people. You don't need to write this, by the way. In the New Order, instead of nobles, instead of people who inherit their wealth, you have these wealthy business families. So think about in America, people like Vanderbilt, Carnegie, these names that you've probably heard before. And you still have a large group of poor people at the bottom of the social structure. But in the middle, you have a new thing, which is the middle class. Okay, so you need to write some stuff on this slide. So the middle class is a new entity. There hadn't been a middle class really before. So characteristics of the middle class, they're educated. So for the first time, public school is starting to be a thing because people are realizing that when you educate people, they can make better decisions and you actually tend to have less crime. Imagine that. Um, so that's coming out of those Enlightenment ideas that we talked about with the last unit. People in the middle class are also religious. So Christianity is going to see a resurgence, and they value duty, honesty, thrift, and hard work. So thrift means spending your money wisely and not being extravagant. People, for the first time, are going to start to think of childhood as being separate from adulthood. So for a lot of history, children have basically kind of been like little adults, but people are going to start to see childhood as being a separate thing, and that it's important for kids to be kids. That kind of goes along with school being a thing for the first time. And women are part of this idea called the cult of domesticity, which is an idea that women shouldn't work outside the home and they should focus on ladylike pursuits like entertaining, like embroidery, like playing piano, things like that, things that aren't real work. But what about the poor people? So things were really, really good for the middle class. Things were really, really good for the wealthy. But for the most part, for the urban poor, things aren't getting better. And a lot of economic philosophers are going to have ideas about why that is and what you should do about it. So this is your assignment for today. You're going to read pages 622 to 626 in your textbook, which is a section of a chapter. Continuing on to these notes that you've already taken, you're going to summarize the views of major economic thinkers, Malthus, Bentham, Owen, and Marx. So that's 4. And think about how these people are thinking in relation to people like Adam Smith that we already talked about. Then, on your left side page, I want you to answer the thinking critically questions on page 624, and I want you to answer the comprehension and critical thinking questions on 626. We'll go over these in class tomorrow. And then I want you to read page 627, which compares different economic systems. And then using the art supplies at the back, create an advertisement or poster for one of these economic systems. Your goal is to try to convince people that that's the best economic system. So think about who would benefit most under that economic system and try to pitch it to those people. When you're done, you can read, do something quiet, work on something for another class, okay? You are going to need to turn in the poster by the end of the period, and you also need to have the other stuff done in your notebook by tomorrow. All right, thank you so much, guys. Have a good day. If you have any questions, ask Ms. Preston. I'm sure I'll get a great report. Be good, make good choices.